Alright, so in this week's guitar lesson, we're going to be learning how to improvise and jam over a song that has just one chord. It just repeats over and over again, which makes it easy because you don't have to worry about playing the chord changes. You don't have to worry about getting lost in the song. You just find the key of the song and you stay there. And it makes it so much more fun in a way to improvise because you can try different scales and double stops and things. And you got a lot of space to do that. We're going to be doing all of this using just two scales. So we're going to be using the E minor pentatonic scale, and we're going to be using the E Dorian scale, or Dorian mode. And don't worry, it's not scary. I'll show you how to find it, and I'll show you how you can easily go between those two scales, and it's a lot of fun to do. So we're going to be doing that over the course of 2 videos. In this video, we're going to go through the first half of what I played in the intro, break all of that down note for note. If you'd like to learn the second half, as well as download the tablature and also get the MP3 jam track so that you can practice playing everything you're about to learn, you can get those things by going to activemelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP455. Alright, so this song is played in the key of E, and it's really more of an E minor kind of vibe. Even though when I played the jam track and I played the keyboard part, I left out the third interval in the chord, thinking that I could go either major or minor, but the bass line that I was playing makes it sound minor. So I'll call this E minor. And so everything that I'm playing is really just a minor scale. So it's E minor pentatonic or the E Dorian mode. And I'll explain how we get into that Dorian mode in a minute. But the first thing that I play, actually, before I do that, let me just play a little snippet of this first section, just so we can get it in our ear, and then we'll talk it through. Okay, so what I played there for that first part goes like this. I'm sliding with my ring finger up to the 9th fret 4th string, and then my index finger on the 7th fret 3rd string, and then back to that 9th fret 4th string. Now these notes are coming from E minor pentatonic scale pattern 4. That's where I was thinking about them. And here's a little sidebar, an easy way to find this or to think about it or to associate it with something else. I associate it with the E minor chord like this, using that A minor shape. So these 3 fingers are making up what would be the A minor. And if you look at where your ring finger is, when you make that chord, it's already in position like that note that I slid into with my ring finger. So then the second note there would be the note that's behind the bar. So that's one way I think about getting into that minor pentatonic scale pattern 4, is I just think about that chord shape. Okay, so the other thing I want to mention is the timing of when this starts. So if you're a premium member and you're playing along with a jam track and you're not sure where to come in, you come in on 3. So it's 1 and 2 and 3. Okay, now that's minor pentatonic scale, but now I'm going to switch gears here, and this is what's nice about playing over one chord like this. We can experiment and go back and forth between scales. So now, remember, it's a minor key vibe, so I'm thinking minor scales. So the next place that I went was Dorian mode, and I played this. Let me show you how to play that, and then we'll talk it through. So it's 7th fret 3rd string, we slide down to the 6th fret, and then we play the 7th fret 4th string. And then we do the same kind of thing. We come down to the 5th fret 4th string, slide down to the 4th fret, and then with my pinky I reach down here and play the 7th fret 5th string. So we have, and then I go like this. So that's 5, 7 on the 5th string, and then the 4th fret 4th string. Back to the 7th fret 5th string. So all together, that last part goes. Now let's talk about why that is E Dorian mode and how you would find it if you want to use it going forward and why you would use it. All of those things. E Dorian mode is just the D major scale. And actually I'll put a lesson up on the screen right now that goes through modes. You can do a deeper dive on modes. But basically I'm just playing the D major scale. The only difference is you start or you emphasize the second note in that scale. So instead of the D, you go to the second note, which is your E. So you go like this. So that, you can see, sounds more minor than that which sounds happy. Same notes, I'm just starting on a different note. I'm starting on the second interval instead of the first. So a quick way to get to Dorian mode, if you're not sure, so how did I think about that? You have to kind of think backwards. So if I'm playing an E, E minor, and I want to play Dorian mode, all I have to do is ask myself the question, well, what is E the 2 of? Because your 2 is always a minor, and that's all covered in that lesson that I put up on the screen on modes. But the quick way to do it, just visually, is to find your E note. So we want to play E Dorian, right? And you just go down 2 frets this way and play the major scale of whatever that is. So in this case, you go down 2 frets, that's a D. So I play the D major scale. That would be me playing an E Dorian. Just remember your 2nd, 3rd, and 6th interval are always minor, and then your 1st, 4th, and 5th interval are always major. If you're lost by that, just ignore it. Just know I'm playing the D major scale. That's all you have to remember. If you want to play E Dorian, it's the D major scale. It's the same as by the way, it's the same as the E natural minor scale. There's only 1 note difference. But that's what it is. The D major scale. Okay, so these notes then are coming from the D major scale, or E Dorian. And to really emphasize the fact that this is Dorian, and to really emphasize the fact that this is coming from the D major scale, the next line that I play is me literally walking up the scale. Let's listen to it and then we'll break it down. So the notes in that go. Listen to them if I play them slowly just by themselves. Listen. You hear that? It's the D major scale. I literally walked up the scale. I didn't even do anything clever or put the notes in any other kind of order, just straight up the scale. But it still works and it sounds good over that minor, vibe in the jam track. Now I'm playing that quickly. As I do that, I'm alternate picking that. So I start with a downstroke and then I go to an upstroke. So it's. And actually, let's talk through the timing of that. So it starts on the and of 3. Okay, so the notes, well, I'll put the tab up on the screen. I'm not going to call them all out because it'll just drive us all crazy. But I'll play through it slowly. It starts, though, with your middle finger. You got to get your fingers right for this. Middle finger on the 5th fret, 5th string, with a downstroke on the right hand. And then the next note would be your pinky on the 7th fret, 5th string. So we'll start with those 2, and it goes like this. And. And then it stops when we get to that 5th fret, 2nd string, it starts to slow down. So it goes. And then after that it goes. So I did all of that with my pinky. From the 7th fret, 2nd string, 8th fret, slide up to the 10th fret. And again, these notes are still part of the D major scale. Kind of a weird timing thing there, but if you listen to the slow version of the jam track, you'll be able to do that. In fact, I would recommend, as you're learning how to play this and try and get it up to tempo, just start with the slow version of the jam track. Get the timing down, play with the version of me with the guitar, and then you can sort of graduate on and play the full tempo. But that's what it sounds like. And up to speed, it's more like something like that. And then after that, I went like this. And look at that. I'm doing a bar here, barring the first 4 strings on the 7th fret, and I'm playing 2, 3, 4, 2. What is that? That's a D triad, a D major chord. So think of your D chord using the A shape. That's that little triad there. And so I just snuck it right in. And by the way, I just did a micro lesson on this just a few days ago. So I'll put that up on the screen as well, that talks about this triad and why it's so important. Okay, let's listen to the next line that we're going to learn. All right, so after that D arpeggio, and that's really all that is. It's just interesting to me. You can even pick the notes out of a D chord, because think about the notes in a D chord are in the D major scale, so it's going to work. So you could play any D triad and it's going to work. So it's just starting to give you some options here. And remember, we're playing in a minor key, but you can sneak in that D major chord. After that, I went. Now that sounds complicated, but it's really not. And again, that micro lesson that I just referenced, I'll put it up again. I go through this in that as well. That must have been in my head from doing that lesson. But this little harmonized third thing, which is a double stop playing 2 strings at once, it's really, I'm just harmonizing the D major scale, do, re, mi, playing the same notes out of the D major scale, but I'm harmonizing them. And I cover that in that micro lesson if you want a little more in depth on that. But I'm playing this triad here, and I'm playing strings 2 and 3 on the 7th fret, and then I go into this shape where I've got my ring finger on the 9th fret 3rd string, my middle finger is on the 8th fret 2nd string. Slide that up 2 frets, and then we go to the 12th fret, strings 2 and 3. So I just switch positions here. You can hear the D major scale. Listen. Right? But it sounds so different when you have that minor chord, that E minor chord behind it. So then I walk back down, then walk back up again, and landed right there. So you can see I'm just going up and down the D major scale in order. It's very linear. Okay, so the next part we're going to switch back into the minor pentatonic scale. Why not? Let's listen to that and then we'll break it down. All right, so I'm back into pattern 4 of the minor pentatonic scale. Right? So you can see I'm not playing all over the fretboard in terms of where I choose to play these patterns of the minor pentatonic scale. Pretty much just sticking right in here for this. So what I did was I used my fingers for this. I just sort of instinctively did that. I was listening to some Steely Dan, and I hear that in Walter's playing sometimes, that kind of poppy sound, or Larry Carlton, or whoever's doing the lead stuff. Maybe it's Larry, but it just had a Steely Dan kind of thing. I don't know. I kind of heard that in my head and I ended up doing it. But that's this little triangle here. And it starts on the 9th fret 3rd string, 8th fret 2nd string, back to the 9th fret 3rd string. And I'm using my fingers, as I mentioned. So I'm using my thumb on the 3rd string, my index finger on the 2nd string. You don't have to do that. It just creates more of a poppy sound. And then I went to the 10th fret 2nd string, and did a full bend there. And then back to the 9th fret 3rd string. And then after that I went and hit that in kind of like 3 times, that 10th fret 2nd string without the bend. And then back to the 7th fret. You can see everything we're doing here is in this little triangle. And then did the bend again, down to the 9th fret, and then 8th fret 2nd string. We landed there. So everything I'm doing, I'm messing around with there, is happening between these 3 notes. Well, I guess it's 4 if you count the bend. But I like finding little areas like that. And honestly, if you're trying to learn how to improvise, take this little triangle and just put on the jam track and see what you can do. Don't go any further than that. You could do an entire solo with that and make it sound great. You could do. You know, all of that is done with those same little 3 notes in that triangle. And I could keep going with it. It's just changing the order, bending, vibrato, holding a note longer, whatever. Just gives you some options. All right, the next thing that I play goes like this. So that to me is still part of pattern 4 of the minor pentatonic scale. I'm still thinking that way. So sliding into strings 4 and 3 on the 9th fret. I like this a lot. Walk away with this little idea. It's a great little power chord, and it's part of that E minor chord. So you hit them together, and then the 3rd string. So it's, and then you come down to the 7th fret third string, back to the 9th fret, 4th string, and then you slide down to the 7th fret, and then down to the 5th fret on the 4th string. So that's the lick. And you can see, or you can hear, that that's minor pentatonic. Right? Okay. So we have that. Let's back up from the beginning now and play everything up to this point just to put it in context. We'll actually go past this though and into this last little phrase we're going to learn, which goes like this. And you'll see that it's a repeat of what we've already learned. Alright, so now we come up and bar the 12th fret, strings 1 and 2. And listen to that. That should sound familiar. Well, we just did it. It's the same thing, it's just an octave higher. So we're sliding up to the 12th fret, strings 1 and 2. Now why did I go there? Well, I'm thinking E minor, right? Think of your E minor chord, like the one you learned down in first position, cowboy chord. Well, it's the same thing when you get to the 12th fret. So it's just strings 1 and 2 out of it. Now after that I went. This is a repeat of what we've done. Remember, we were just playing the harmonized major scale of D major. I'm doing the same scale, but I'm playing it now in strings 1 and 2. So it's just continuing the scale. It's just playing it in a different spot. So that's all this is the D major scale. And we're starting here. Actually, we start with that, which isn't really part of the D major scale, but then I go into it. We go to 12th fret, 2nd string, 10th fret, 1st string, and then we go down to the 9th fret, 1st string, and then the 10th fret, 2nd string. So that's shape 1 and that's shape 2. So you have, and then you slide that down 2 frets, and then you go back to shape 1, which would be down here. Now this will make sense because think about your D triad on strings 1, 2, and 3. It's the top part of your A shape. It's your D chord, but it's the top part of that A shape. So you can see that I'm playing strings 1 and 2 out of that triad. So hopefully it's starting to make sense that we're just really playing that major scale. We're just harmonizing it. And I'm playing it like that. Now, once we get to here, I switch back into E minor pentatonic scale for a minute and play this. Now this would be 5th fret, 1st string. There's a hammer-on pull-off between the 5th fret and the 6th fret on the 1st string. And then I do a hammer-on with my pinky to the 8th fret, 2nd string. And then back to that 5th fret, 1st string. I just know this is a little lick. I think of this as kind of like minor pentatonic. Little minor pentatonic lick. And then after that I went and slid up 6, 7 on the 1st string. And then watch this. Well, what are those notes? It's an E minor chord. It's the top part of your E minor chord, like that, playing, using the A minor shape. So from that 7th fret 1st string, 8th fret 2nd string, then you go to the 9th fret 3rd string. A little stair step there. And that's where I wrapped up that first part of, and actually that's where we're going to wrap up this first half. Now it goes into another whole half, which we'll cover in the part 2 video. Everything is still pretty much E minor pentatonic scale and then D major scale, with the exception of one little run where I do a half step, whole step, diminished scale run in one spot, but I'm going to save that for the part 2 video. All right, I'll back up and play through all of this one more time so you have one final version, and then we'll see you in part 2.